Hello, Abigail here with the astrology of this week. This week is interesting. It's kind of feels a bit like a placeholder. It also feels like a bit of a reveal where the universe is going to kind of be showing us some places where work has been happening, where we might not have seen progress, which I feel is nice. We are still, however, in the post Mercury shadow retrograde phase. So the degrees that we retrograded through, we are now going back through. So there is a sense of kind of cleaning up and picking up as we go along while getting new revelations, while getting new insights. We're also kind of bookended between two moons, the new moon in Pisces and the full moon in Libra. Both of them have great rulership. Both of them have Saturn squares, Jupiter squares. And so there also feels like a really strong connecting line in here. And it's going to have a lot to do with relationships. It's going to have a lot to do with our sense of self. It has a lot to do with luck or how we perceive it or both. So this week definitely feels like there's going to be a lot of aha moments, not all of them pleasant. I will say, if someone's been lying to you, probably going to find out. Or if someone just has feelings that they haven't been sharing with you, it doesn't necessarily have to be lying. But starting off, now that we've kind of covered the general vibes, on Wednesday, we have Sun conjunct Saturn. So this is kind of the most punchy aspect of this week. It is going to feel like a lot. This is also, our first little Sun conjunction with Saturn in Aries this year. So a lot of revelations around what Saturn in Aries brings to us. Now, is it adjacent with an orb of Neptune? Absolutely. It is. It's still obscured in a sense and kind of made a bit almost like a funhouse mirror. Everything in the mirror is real, just not our perception of it. So take that with a little grain of salt, but we are going to start to see where Saturn has been working on things, where Saturn is starting to kind of get its fingers and teeth, as it were, into this part of our chart. So definitely check out where Aries is in your chart and what planets you may or may not have there. That will also help you with what theme, if you look at what house that's in. Also, if you don't know your birth time, I do chart rectification, so hit me up for that. I don't have it as a publicly offered thing, but if you DM me on Instagram, I will set up a reading, not a reading, but a session to rectify your chart. Um, Excuse me. Anywho, so this is also going to be a moment where we recognize some of our limitations and maybe even some of, especially because it's still adjacent to Neptune, some of the limitations of our dreams and some of the things that we've been wanting. I think also some of us have outgrown some of our dreams and desires, and this week is that week where it's like, do I still want all the things I've been really trying to get, or do I like the idea of them? Also had a client today where I was like, you've always been able to get everything you want. It was a mediumship reading. And they were like, not really. I was like, no, think about it. You have. The things that you wanted just disappointed you when you got there. And so that's kind of the vibe. It's like, firstly, are we putting too much stock into the things that we want, as in like, oh, these things are going to fix all of our problems? Because they're not. They will make your life easier, possibly. Or you might feel a different way once you get them, but in capitalism and in an imperialistic world, not a whole lot of things we attain are going to change things massively. Um, Definitely can improve a quality of life. I'm not saying that's not true, but we're going to be kind of hauled up short on our ideals. Like I said, we're coming off of the Neptune Saturn conjunction, which I think is Sunday. And so just coming to terms and realizing the things that we've been wanting and their limitations and what they can and cannot do for us. Also, everything being in Aries, besides Mars, there is kind of a voracious, well, and Mercury, but there is a voracious energy here, a desire to get things now and instantly. And Saturn reminds us that we can't. Saturn in Aries also reminds us what happens when we rush things, when we push things too quickly. Note to self, I I hate waiting. My joke is that I always wait impatiently. I am not patient at all. And I will gripe and wind my way through that. But in this moment, there is kind of a hauling up short of things, especially around our sense of self and our desires and the things that we value about ourselves. We're going to see our limitation in some way or another, and probably in a pretty harsh way because of it being an Aries, not a gentle place to be. Also, this week is we're all very capable of getting butt hurt about something. Now, are we justified? Possibly, but if you get butt hurt, know that that's the vibe of this week. We are going to be sensitive. There's a lot of tenderness in this week. Not like the warm fuzzy tenderness, but like tender is in like, ouch, I'm sensitive. Um, Recognize that these are moments to reconsider. You don't have to trash all of your dreams, but you are going to recognize where you can and cannot do things. You're also going to recognize where you no longer want things, where things no longer align with you, where something that you were building no longer fits within the person that you are today. And so there's a lot of release happening. Part of this is because we have sextiles with Pluto. The first sextile is with the sun on Thursday. And this is when people who be lying be telling on themselves. I'll just say that. People, sun sextile Pluto is when people will say stuff and you're like, did you mean to say that? Because I feel like that's a confession. Um, it also can very much reveal things that we have kept hidden or things that other people have wanted to keep hidden. In Aries and Aquarius, there's also an element of being a shit stirrer. People setting off bombs in order to stir things up. And this moment, literally or figuratively, I could see this happening in mundane astrology as well. Um, but yeah, just this moment where we get some revelations around some stuff that's been hidden. This is also a week when a lot of the eclipse energy, the veil is starting to kind of be rolled back. And we're like, oh, that's what was being obscured. That's what I wasn't seeing. This is the path that the eclipses have set me on. A lot of aha moments here. Also on that day, Thursday, we have Venus conjunct Chiron. This is the last Venus Chiron conjunction in Aries. It's over. And, we get to kind of sit with the ways in which we've been harmed during this during this Chiron Aries moment. Also, fun fact, the next sign it goes into is Venus ruled. So I think this moment is also going to tell us a bit about what the next transit is bringing. But this is a day when, hurt and harm is going to feel amplified because of that connection to pain. Like I said, with Sun sextile Pluto, people are going to be telling the truth, whether they want to or not. So just be protective around yourself. If you don't feel like you can handle much that day, maybe don't engage as much. Maybe pull back a little bit, so you're not just throwing yourself in the path of death and destruction. Not literally, but just an emotional roller coaster is what this day is basically shaping up to be. This doesn't go for everybody, but I could totally see a family scandal coming to light. I could see cheating coming up. Also with Pluto sextiles and things like that, you can have people who cut you off randomly or disappear randomly, and then several years later, you find out why, and you're like, crazy. So just know that it kind of sneaky vibes. Some people will get caught, some people won't. And also very tender because, Venus conjunct Chiron is going to be talking about the ways in which our relationships have hurt us, the ways in which the people that we love and trust most have sacrificed our autonomy for their comfort, our ability to thrive and grow for what they wanted. And oftentimes it's not really a fair trade. It's like, um, you know, you kind of sacrificing your life and your future and your comfort for someone and then being like, I just don't like how feelings make me feel. And then them kind of trashing any hopes and dreams you have in order to stay safe. That's very much what this is giving. You know, Also something that I think, Chiron and Aries has taught us is like, even harm that's not intentional causes harm and needs to be apologized for. And so I think a lot of us are going to be like, that person hurt me. I think they should say sorry. And, they should. Doesn't mean that they will. This is also a moment where I think some of us are going to reach our limit when it comes to someone if it hasn't already. If you have been dragging your feet on setting boundaries and you didn't do that with the eclipses, this is the day where it's like, so you didn't set a boundary and now they've done it again. You didn't set a boundary and so now they're stepping on you again. So a bit of a reminder to those of us who have not kind of locked things in, told people off that, there's no time like the present to set up healthy boundaries with people. Not walls that no one can ever get over, but boundaries that are like, hey, I don't accept this behavior. Then on Saturday, we have Saturn sextile Pluto. Because of how slowly Saturn moves, this one's going to drag on for a minute, and we're already kind of gearing up towards it. Ever since Saturn entered into Aries, we have been in the vibe, in the orb of this conjunction. And so all of these secrets and systemic problems that we have that were obvious to people who suffered under them, but for those of us who did not suffer as much, are starting to kind of come to light. Also, what you're going to start seeing is more and more people in your life and online being like, oh, I kind of screwed up voting for a certain someone, um, and also not taking much accountability for it. Some people will, but most of them are going to be like, oh no, little small me didn't know that I was harming others by putting someone in power who I knew was a bad person. Um, so there is an element of like deep frustration in this energy. It's there's a bug here. Don't know what that is. Deep frustration in this energy, and me killing a bug at 11:11. I will trim this video, and it probably will no longer be 11:11, but but that bug was fun. And yes, I did squash him because I think it's one of those plant gnats. They're coming for me. I will have to make some more cinnamon spray. Anyways, back from the ADHD break. Um, this is going to be a week where people are disappointing. This is going to be a week where the gains that you have made during the eclipses, during the past 6 months, are going to become really apparent in comparison to other people's lack of growth. You're going to be like, wow, I've changed and shifted so much, and yet these people have not changed at all. They haven't shifted that much, and I'm starting to feel the distance between us grow as I continue to progress and they kind of regress. Um, there's no right or wrong way to do relationships, but especially with where all the planets are, we're very fast approaching a point where most of us are going to have to draw some kind of line when it comes to our relationships. Honestly, for some of us, for our own safety, just, full stop. If you are not physically in danger, I always encourage, you know, trying to have conversations with people that you still love. But if you are in physical danger, this might be the week where you recognize that some of your friends and family are harmful and in fact kind of dangerous to you as a queer person, a disabled person, person born in a female body, someone who identifies as a woman, as a trans person. So yeah, not necessarily fun, but definitely essential. Um, I like sextiles because they're kind of like pulling back of the veil. They tend to be helpful. They tend to have solutions wrapped up in them in one way or another. With a planet like Pluto, where the orb is so wide and the time frame is so long, are we going to get answers now and solutions now? Probably not, but they are developing. So, stay tuned to the energy that is going to be coming. Especially with the Saturn conjunction, just kind of a final reminder that it is near Neptune. So while there is some really lovely clarity as to what this Saturn cycle is bringing, we're also, once again, not going to fully know until Saturn fully separates from Neptune. And none of us have ever experienced Saturn and Neptune together in a sign. So, not Saturn being together sign, oops. Saturn and Neptune in Aries together, because we have experienced that before. It happens every like 36 years. But none of us have, oh, Jesus. Gotta pull back. This final Mercury right now is currently at its stationing degree. This is what happens. We've never seen Neptune in Aries. It's unprecedented. None of us have lived through this cycle. So there is a lot of mystery around it. And that's just something we have to accept. Even astrologers don't have any like tangible proof besides like looking back at like a long time ago. And just seeing what was going on. But that's also from a secondhand perspective. So just know that these are unprecedented times if you haven't noticed. But there's a lot of magic in this week, and there's a lot of intensity. And this is the moment where I think a lot of the Mercury retrograde and the eclipse stuff starts to make sense. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Pluto and the sun, while it is death and decay and the visibility of said things, it also brings clarity and understanding to stuff that has long been hidden. And Aquarius is not shy about telling you what's been going on, and neither is Aries. So there is this lovely energy of kind of like ripping the band aid off and just being given and having to see things for what they are. If you have been very delulu recently, this will be very hard. But if you have any kind of grounding, this is just a moment of kind of affirming what you've been coming to terms with over a period of time. Anyways, my dears, this is one of those funky little weeks where I just sense a lot is going to happen. And a lot of the astrology we've been experiencing is going to have some kind of punctuation this week. But when you kind of look at the list, you're like, oh, that's not too much. But it is very Pluto Saturn heavy and Sun heavy, so it is going to be a lot. So just take care of yourselves. 2026 has been difficult. And while better astrology is coming, we are still kind of in the thick of it until we get the planets out of the water sign of Pisces, which will happen. It will. We also get Venus at the very beginning of next week into Taurus, which is going to feel great. I, as a native Venus Aries, love this energy, but as far as like overall astrology, having a planet in the domicile is nice. So we have that to look forward to. And then Mars, before the end of Aries season, will be in Aries. I want to say, if not next week, it's the week after. Yeah, I think it's the week after next. So slowly but surely getting there, folks. We will make it through this. But yeah, if you have any questions, please pop them below, like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Have a blessed week of revelations and hard truths and, holding our pain tenderly.